Good evening and welcome to the June 14th, 2023 meeting of the City Council. We have a regular meeting tonight. We're here at City Council Chambers at 345 High Street in Hamilton. I apologize to all of you for being late. We do have one public hearing this evening. It involves amending various Hamilton City zoning ordinances. Let's do a roll call, please.
Pullman.
Present.
Fear.
Present.
Vaughn.
Present.
Ryan.
Here.
Nab.
Present.
Lauer.
Present.
Moeller.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to have an offering of prayer by Councilmember Carla Fear, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service and let us effectively and decisively do our business at hand. In faith and confidence we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get into our special presentations, I would like to have a moment of silence for a gentleman named Jack Kirsch, who was part of our country's greatest generation, as well as a former city manager. So, a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, we have some very special presentations. As I look at the agenda, it looks like we have Altrusa International of Hamilton first. I see a lot of those fine ladies in the front row. Why don't all the Altrusa people come up to the middle of the podium up here? All the Altrusa people up here. Susan, can you join me down there, please?
Sure.
We're going to include two younger ladies I see over here.
There's three.
There's three. There's one here. Okay, great.
How about club to the right?
Thank you.
To the left.
This one, okay. Okay, I think everybody's up here, and that actually works pretty loud, Daniel. Thank you. Why don't you play that video first? Get the video just so you can see a little bit about the way Altrusa impacts people's lives. This video might help out here a little bit. Because we do have three students who won Altrusa scholarships with us.
Hi, Altrusans. I'm Chloe Christian.
Hi, I'm Vishnavi Vingala.
I'm planning to attend Ohio University in the fall to study economics and political science, and then attend law school to become a lawyer.
I am planning on attending the University of Cincinnati for pre-med with the hopes of becoming a doctor one day.
I've really loved all my time in Astra. It's given me so many great things, including the ability to sharpen my leadership skills, and it's been an outlet for my passion for community service. It's also given me the opportunity to meet so many new great people and work with new organizations that I am now involved in. I am so glad that Vaishnavi and I decided to restart our Astra Club at our school our sophomore year and lead it so that new Astra members can have the same great experience we did.
I have been fortunate enough to be part of Astra all 3 years of high school. Astra has not only given me room to improve as a strong leader, but it has also awarded me the doors to new opportunities. From running the meetings to going out and volunteering, I have made connections with different groups of people. I am so grateful to Altrusa, Dr. Geary, and Chloe Christian, without whom we wouldn't have been able to restart Astra chapter at Hamilton High School. In 10 years, when I look back at my high school career, Astra would be a highlight in my time. From restarting Astra with my best friend to earning this international scholarship, Astra has truly been one of the best parts of high school.
We are so grateful for all of the support that Altrusa gives to Astra and how it was really able to instill a passion for community service that will follow us into adulthood. We're also so grateful for the international scholarship that we received that will help us continue our educational futures. I will never forget my time in Astra as I continue to my future at Ohio University.
And I will always remember my time in Astra into the future at the University of Cincinnati.
Thank you, Altrusans!
Those are 2 scholarship winners, but we actually have 3 scholarship winners out of 4 that. That's good. That's good. But no, he's a fine young man. But these are the 4 scholarship winners, and I'm going to hand out the microphone so they can introduce themselves to you. 2 of them you have already met, but we went to an event Susan and I did where Astra and all the Altrusa accomplishments were recognized. And okay, you're first. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Vishnavi and I just graduated from Hamilton High School, and I'm actually not going to University of Cincinnati, but I'm going to the Ohio State for pre-med. So yeah, I've changed that, guys. That's about it. Everything else is the same.
And as you heard, I'm Chloe Kristen, also just graduated from Hamilton, and I'm going to OU in the fall.
Now, man, since we didn't hear about you up on there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're going?
Okay. I'm Amber Colgrove, and I just graduated from Fairfield High School. I've been involved in a lot of things, a lot of leadership opportunities like the National Honor Society, the Tri Music Honor Society, the Fairfield Youth Coalition, which helps the community to stay safe and drug-free. Service is something that I'm really passionate about, and I was so grateful for this scholarship, which will help me to continue my education. I'm going to Miami University, Oxford, where I will be double majoring in biology and violin performance with a co-major in pre-med.
Joan, are you going back to school?
I would if I could.
Well, if you had a chance to go back to school and go to school with these 3 young people, that would be absolutely amazing, because I know I was amazed, I think Susan was amazed about how sharp these young people are. Kind of restored our faith in young people. We're here celebrating Altrusa, 100 years, and Joan, why don't you just kind of tell us a little about the Altrusa Club before I read the
Okay,
proclamation.
I'm the longest term member of this club. I've been an Altrusan for 45 years now. Altrusa is a service organization originally started in 1917 for women, and it was on the Rotary model, similar to the men's groups. Our club was founded by the club in Dayton in 1923, and we have been providing service in this community for those 100 years. Just in the 45 years, which I now realize is almost half that time, that I've been a member, we organized and founded and organized the 4th of July parade and picnic and program for over 20 years. We helped to get the hospice program started here in this area with Hospice of the Miami Valley. We worked with Fort Hamilton Hospital to start the first Meals on Wheels program. For all the years that Astra has been in this community, we have given scholarships to high school seniors and also scholarships to non-traditional students who are going back for training. Our major project right now is we are providing free books for patients in 6 medical clinics in the whole area. So we spend our time fixing up the books and putting them in the medical places, and mostly for children. We find that children are the ones that want the books, although some of the adults are happy to get them too. That is literacy is our major goal, but we try to do anything that will help our community to be a better place for all of us to live.
Okay, it's my honor to give this proclamation to Altrusa of Hamilton. Also the mayor, a proclamation. Whereas Hamilton City Council and City Administration would like to recognize Altrusa International of Hamilton for making local communities better through leadership, partnership, and for their 100 years of service. And whereas first organized on February 22nd, 1923, Altrusa International of Dayton, Ohio was chartered on October 23rd, 1923.
And whereas the nonprofit organization's primary focus is to increase literacy rates and provide schools, supplies, and clothing to Hamilton and New Miami schools and to serve the community in a variety of ways. And whereas for over 20 years, your organization led the Bells on Independence Day parade and the program on July 4th. And whereas your organization also collaborated with organizations such as Fort Hamilton Hospital to start the Meals on Wheels, as Joan described, and with other community leaders, helped start the Hospice of Miami Valley. And whereas each year, Altrusa awards traditional scholarships to local high school graduates and scholarships awarded to non-traditional students. Whereas the newest ongoing project is establishing the reading centers that Joan described in 5 primary health solution sites, providing free books for patients. Therefore, I, Pat Muller, Mayor of the City of Hamilton, Ohio, members of Hamilton City Council, hereby recognize Altrusa International of Hamilton for making our local communities better through leadership, partnership, and service. Now, Susan, do you want to say a few things, Councilmember Vaughn?
I just say a couple of things. I know the cost of education right now is tremendous. And so these young people getting scholarships, we've seen Hamilton High has gotten a tremendous number of scholarships, and congratulations to all of you. I think lastly, I just want to recognize that Chloe and Vaishnavi both have won also the International Altrusa Scholarship. So that's unusual to have 2 students from one school in our city to win that award. And so congratulations to the 2 of you. They're outstanding, all of you, outstanding. The young man from Ross spoke at the meeting. Very, very well spoken. So excited to be getting the scholarship, and also saying, without scholarships, I couldn't go to college. So I think it's important. Thank you all to Altrusa. Thank you all for what you do and what you're going to do for our community.
And Joseph School and University of Notre Dame.
Yes.
I had to say that. Pass you all to the left to the Astra program.
Yep. Oh.
You are.
Hi, I'm Candy Pierce-Gary and the advisor for Astra at Hamilton High School. I do want to point out the significance of the 2 girls winning our international scholarship. There are 4 international scholarships worldwide, so we got half. So they are. We've had a great year. We've done a number of service projects, and I'm really excited to keep Astra going. It's going to be very different without the leadership of these 2 who actually brought it back from COVID death. And they were a huge part of keeping it going. We've got some good officers in place, so we're looking forward to being helpful to Hamilton in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. How about a round of applause for Chloe. She sure does have something to say.
I do. Well, we thank Pat and Susan for coming to our second event that we celebrated our 100th anniversary, which was our scholarship winners that were acknowledged, and so we thank you for doing that. 100 years, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, yes, we are having a third one to end our 100th year, and that will be in October. So we haven't decided on a date yet, but we will, and we are going to ask those organizations that we have helped over the years, Hospice, Meals on Wheels, and many, many more, to come to that event to help us celebrate our 100 years. So it will be an open house, and we hope that you're able to attend as well, and any other council members. But we appreciate the individuals that did so well from an international level, and we wish you good luck on your education. And I think, is there anything else we need to say? But I appreciate your allowing us to come tonight and acknowledge the scholarship winners.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll take this. Shake your hand.
Thank you,
Give
Pat.
this to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That you've been helping.
Very much.
All right. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a Juneteenth presentation by Charla Hale and Candace White.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Charla Hale. I am the Chief Strategy and Jedi Officer at YWCA Hamilton, and also, in my abundance of free time, the co-chair of the Hamilton Juneteenth Committee. And so I am here today to just let you all know that we are having the 3rd annual Hamilton Juneteenth celebration this Saturday from 12 to 9 p.m. This year we'll be having the full park and River's Edge included in our Juneteenth celebration. There will be live music all day long, and we're ending the night with a party in the park with a live DJ and some glow-in-the-dark lights and fun. So it's going to be a family-friendly event, and I just kind of wanted to share that with all of the public. You are all invited. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you there. And I want to take a moment to just highlight why Juneteenth is important. So City Council and Mayor Moeller in 2020 dedicated Juneteenth as a city holiday and recognized it continually in this community as something that we will respect and honor. But the reason why Juneteenth is important for all Americans is that is the official day that African Americans were declared free. And so that is a holiday that we want to recognize as abundantly and proudly as we do 4th of July, because it's the day that all of the citizens in the United States of America were free and able to be empowered and free to do all the things that this wonderful country has been able to offer. And so we thank you for that proclamation and that continued support and resolution. And we are very excited to have this celebration here in the community. And I'm dropping off a giant poster so that it can get put up in the City Hall so everyone knows to come hang out with us on Saturday. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Charla. It'll be a great celebration.
Very big responsibility. You guard that with your life until you get it on the wall. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Daniel, you know what you have to do. Another exciting event's coming up, the Neighborhood Summit. And we're going to hear from 2 of our city professionals who are going to talk to us about that Neighborhood Summit.
We're going to start with a video.
On the morning of Saturday, June 24th, this has been years in the making, we have the first ever Hamilton Neighborhood Summit. The summit will be a sort of mini conference that brings together once a year the resident leaders, business leaders, government and nonprofit leaders, education leaders, and youth leaders in our community to connect and learn from one another. Anyone who has a stake in this city, anyone who cares about the future of this city, we want you there. The real power of the 17 Strong Initiative is this concept of building a bigger table. There are a lot of great volunteers in this community and great and active residents. We need more. We want more. Many hands make light work, and it's going to take everyone to lift this city. We're asking everyone to please register ahead of time, and you can find that link on our 17 Strong Facebook page or the 17 Strong website, which is www.17stronghamilton.org. So we will have a welcome assembly in the morning, and then we'll break out into a couple of breakout sessions. We're trying to keep it really brief and bite-sized, but we have some great speakers. One of them is called Neighboring as a Verb. This is one of our 17 Strong Advisory Board members, Carol Combs, who's going to be leading that discussion. Another is Putting the Hour in Tourism, and that's going to be led by the CEO of the Butler County Visitors Bureau. Another is called From Passion to Action, How Residents Are Activating Hamilton. So the concept behind this is that a lot of the really great events from the Hamilton Flea through to Hamilton Welcomes the Holidays and the 4th of July, these are resident-led events. Operation Pumpkin, resident-led events, Pride, Juneteenth, all of these things are organized by residents. Bridging the Gaps, Building Opportunities for Diversity in Our Community, that's going to be led by the city's HR director, Jean Pope, along with a great panel. Another one is the Next Generation of Leaders, Youth Perspectives on Hamilton's Future. That breakout session will be led by Shamana Curtis, who's one of the co-founders of the citywide Hamilton Internship Program. Beyond the Gallery Walls, a conversation with Hamilton's arts organizations, led by Ian Mackenzie Thurley, the executive director at the Fitton Center. One of my personal favorites that I'm looking most forward to is called Why Does It Take So Long? Solving Problems Where We Live. This is a session that's going to be led by Jeff Archibald from the Hamilton Vision Commission, and it's going to have people from the city addressing the big three topics that we hear about at neighborhood meetings. Those are street paving, blight, and quality of life crime. Really looking forward to that conversation. And then finally, we have Places Need People, Why You Are the Missing Piece. Collaborating on this breakout session is going to be the assistant to the city manager, Mallory Greenham, and our planning director, Liz Hayden. If you do nothing else to volunteer or get involved in the community this year, come to this event. It's going to be a fantastic way to learn more about how residents are shaping the future of our city. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Mueller and members of council. I kind of cheated because I let that handsome guy give you most of the details, but what I do want to stress is we're so excited. I think this is going to be a new benchmark, a new high for 17 Strong. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank a lot of the early 17 Strong leadership like Joanne Wallish, Frank Downey, and Kathy Klink, who got us really involved in the Cincinnati Neighborhood Summit years ago, which really has served as a model for this. And special thanks also to Councilwoman Vaughn, who's playing a critical role in helping us plan and execute this. So I would just invite all of you to be there. I know all of you are either registered or going to be out of town, and we certainly understand that. But to all the residents and people who are in the room, there are many who you saw in that video in this room who are going to be leading some of these discussions, and we just think it's going to be a great day in the city of Hamilton.
Ditto. No. I just want to give kudos to Brandon and his team. I know it's a first-time event, so no one knows what you're getting into, but I know that it's going to be a very impactful and powerful day. I mean, we're going from big picture all the way down to neighborhoods, to things you can do in your front yard, and things you can do on your own, and I know you'll leave inspired and probably with lots of ideas. So we look forward to seeing all of you, and if you can't come, please invite a friend and let them know what it's all about, because again, first year. So, thank you.
Any questions?
I heard a question in the back. It's June 24th, the Saturday, and the event will run from 9 to noon. Registration will be open an hour beforehand, and lunch will be served an hour afterward.
A question for you, Brandon. How does one person go to all those breakout sessions?
I know, right?
I'm not kidding you. How does one person do that?
I'm really upset that I'm only going to be able to be in one room at a time, because it's going to be great. So we're working to try to capture as much of the information that's shared in those rooms as possible. I think our friends Steve Colwell and TV Hamilton are going to give us an assist for at least a couple of those rooms.
That would be great.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I would just add, breakfast also, light breakfast, so get there around 8 or 8:30, pre-registration, and it's at Miami University here in Hamilton. Wonderful facility. Thank you to Miami University for allowing us to use the space, starting in the Wilkes Center. We'll be using Parrish Auditorium. Wonderful facility. So it'll be a great morning, and we hope to see everyone there. Thanks.
Thank you. We're all looking forward to it. Okay, next we have Dr. Rasmus. I believe he's bringing Mike with him, and all right.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I do have a number of handouts here that I can provide to you. I've been thankful that I've had a chance to meet with some council members and yourself, Mayor, earlier, and as I'm making the rounds to educate the public on the Butler County Behavioral Health Crisis Stabilization Unit, I thought I would bring these with me. So I guess, Matt, if you want to distribute some of these, that would be great.
Motion to
And then if you could pull up my PowerPoint. Oh, you can do it? Okay.
Been a motion to receive by Councilmember Fear, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are not going to be accepted in as part of the official minutes.
Thank you. So the Butler County, I'm going to start a little bit with the Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services Board for a slide or two here, not a lot, but just to emphasize key aspects of my board. My board is a ADAMIS board, an Alcohol and Drug Addiction and Mental Health Services board. It's organized under Ohio Revised Code 340. And our role is to be the hub for mental health and addiction services in Butler County, emphasizing planning, contracting, forecasting, needs assessing, and oversight of the mental health and addiction recovery services system in Butler County. The board is composed of 18 governing board members, which are my bosses, Matt here, Matt Him is the president, and 13 staff, 11 staff that work directly for me, and 2 subcontractors, a prosecuting attorney and a psychiatrist, Dr. Miller, who is the chief medical officer for the board. The board's budget is $18 million a year, and its funding comes 57% from tax levies. There's 2 mental health tax levies, a half mil and a full mil, about 29% from federal grants and monies, and about 14% from the state. So moving forward here quickly, there's 14 behavioral health fee-for-service contract providers. This is our big contract. And then there's a whole sort of smaller and middle providers. One key aspect is the residents served in fiscal 22, 37,401 residents were served. That includes prevention, education, and treatment. That's a very large number, probably approaching about 10%. 1 out of 10 Butler County residents are addressed through my board and its contract providers. My staff, if I can back this up here, I have 7 licensed staff, which are social workers, counselors, marriage and family therapists, and a psychiatrist. My staff do not provide treatment services. They are primarily oversight and consultation services. The contracting for the behavioral health services happens with our provider system. We oversee them. So, moving on, and again, I just with the board does not provide services, behavioral health services. We're more of an oversight or administration governmental agency. Again, the providers provide the service. So I want to start next in to talk about the Butler County Crisis Stabilization Unit. There's a statement here. There's a 2-year body of work that myself and my board staff has invested in this now. We started off with focus groups, an advisory group. We went to see or had conversations with 6 crisis stabilization centers, 2 in Ohio, or 3 in Ohio, 2 in North Carolina, and 1 conversation with an organization, a unit that's out in Oregon State. The 2 units in North Carolina that we went to see, and that was Commissioner Carpenter and myself, were evidence-based practices by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, emphasizing, again, a best practice. We went down there, observed it, and modeled our facility after that. So anyway, there's been a lot of research here and investigation over the last 2 years, and I just sort of want to emphasize that there is a large body of research, education, investigation, and development for this. And so we move on. Here is the current proposed location and parameters around the Crisis Stabilization Unit. Just realize the board's partner in this is the Butler County Commissioners, who I've worked very closely with. The current proposed location is the Butler County Care Facility, which currently resides empty. It's about 40,000 square feet. And we are looking to put 10 observation chairs and 10 beds. The beds are more for an extended stay. Average length of stay is short term, looking about a 12-hour stay with sort of like a 23-hour maximum per se. and emphasizing the additional 1 to 3 days in case, as this facility, which emphasizes an assessment, triage, and referral process, not necessarily serving the worst of the worst with behavioral health issues, that's mental health and addiction issues, but serving folks that can be assessed and referred to organizations like psychiatric hospitals, medication-assisted treatment, withdrawal management organizations or settings, counseling services in the community depending on the need. One of the questions maybe is, why the extra 1 to 3 days? The emphasis here is to realize that if somebody comes in on a Friday night, say at 11 at night, and it's a holiday weekend, there may not be able to be a direct referral to one of these supporting system organizations, so we may have to hold clients a little bit before we make that referral to the system. Obviously, this has to be done quickly and efficiently so that the unit stays open and viable and flexible to take on clients. Anyway, let's move on to the next slide here. It's open, slated to be open 24/7, 365. There's a drop-off and different drop-off areas for police and community. Drop-off is targeted less than 5 minutes. The emphasis here is to let the police do what they need to do so they could drop off folks and they can be assessed and integrated into the facility. Limited medical and medication. Remember, this emphasizes behavioral health assessments and referrals. Targeting about 4,800 clients or residents within the first year, and about a 10% increase into year 2 is what we're looking at. The cost of the facility is a $1 million capital rehab of the care facility. If you're familiar with the care facility, it has 4 wings. If you go into by the Board of Elections and sort of down the hill by the unit, it's the northwest wing. That wing has a lower level and an upper level. The lower level will be the intake or the intake part of the facility. Again, separated parts for police and the community. There will be assessment rooms there. There will be rooms for staff support, and then a referral up through the elevator up to the upper level in the northwest wing, where the observation chairs and the beds would be located. These 2 different areas would be separated, and there would be nursing stations. There may be med supports, showers, restrooms, things like that, common areas, recreation areas, and things like that to support, the clients or residents there. I want to emphasize this is a Butler County facility for Butler County residents. But what you get into is if there's somebody from out of county, out of state who could potentially be near the facility and they're presenting with a crisis, you have to address them and triage and refer, and maybe refer out of the county if necessary. But I think legally you've got to address those needs, but in a limited manner, emphasizing Butler County residents. There is a flyer in the information that I gave you that highlights this pretty well, a colored flyer. There also is drawings. There's 3 drawings on the care facility. An architect did those drawings. The top drawing is the outside and the proposed layout of the drop-off area there for police and intake. The second page, I believe, is the drawing of the lower level, and then the third drawing is the drawing of the upper level of the facility. So anyway, that's the northwest upper and lower wing. We are proposing through the commissioners to use the north wing as sort of a capacity area, such that there's indication that we may need more than 20 units, 10 beds and 10 chairs, so therefore that could be used for expansion in the future. The rest of the facility, we're still under discussions with the commissioners on what the rest of the facility would be used for. In support, I'm hoping behavioral health in different ways. In my perspective, the hotline services could be there, the mobile crisis services, some counseling services can be provided, in the other aspects of the facility. But again, that's my perspective, and I'm still working with the commissioners to sort of finalize that. So That's the facility. I wanted to also provide some evidence of need from you all, and I'm going to let Matt talk a little bit. You'll find there is a poll in there, and I put it on one page. I think it's question 27. 26 and 27, but the one that I gave you was specifically 27 in the results, and I'm going to let him talk about it. I also, you'll see on that page, I gave you a link where you can go through the board's board docs document and get into this full poll that was done recently. So Matt, do you want to say something about that?
Hi, my name is Matthew Hem. I'm the sitting president of the Butler County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services Board. I'm also a happy Hamilton resident and homeowner in the New London neighborhood. I am a recovering addict myself. I'm coming up on 10 years clean and sober. I have been to prison. These services that are included here in Butler County are a huge part of my life personally. They are also a huge part of my wife's life. My wife is also a recovering addict, and she's been clean and sober for almost 9 years herself. She has used many of these services and continues to use the services through Dr. Moss and Modern Psychiatry, so these services are greatly needed and greatly appreciated by us residents here in Butler County and the city of Hamilton. As a board, we contracted with a company called Burgess & Burgess to do a poll and survey of Butler County registered voters. The main focus of this was actually for us to ask certain questions and see if we could potentially have a levy put on the ballot. But we also took advantage of the survey and put a couple questions on there to see the needs and the wants of the residents of Butler County on a crisis stabilization unit. So on question 26 and 27 of our survey, they asked directly on question 26 if they are in approval or against a crisis stabilization unit being directly in their community, and 67% of the replies were strongly agree or agree. So you have over 2/3 of the replies of the survey being in compliance and wanting this facility directly in their community. And then question 27, I believe, is a more generalized question stating, do you support a crisis stabilization unit for Butler County residents? And then that number goes up by 2 percentage points to 69%. So you have a direct correlation with need and want from Butler County residents for this type of facility. We have worked so diligently over 2 years on gathering information, sending Dr. Rasmus and Commissioner Carpenter to all corners of the country to study these facilities. The diligence is there, the work is there, and for the most part, we are in great need of this facility. We're here to not just ask for your blessing to put it in this location, but to work with you hand in hand so that the residents of Hamilton and the residents of Butler County get the best possible mental health and addiction treatment that is available to them. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You'll see also I broke that out by Butler County overall, and then you'll see Hamilton, Fairfield, and Fairfield Township are broken out there by polling location. And I can tell you across the board, no matter if it's overall the county, if it's those areas, if it's Westchester, if it's rural areas, the numbers are very strong, in support of this. And also you'll see the 600 folks that were randomly polled, that they were registered voters, frequent voters, and all that. So it just happened here last month in the middle of the month. So it's some pretty relevant data. The next piece that I've put up here is 2022 suicide deaths in Butler County. We had 64. That's the highest in 21 years. The closest to that was 51. I think it was 2008. You remember the Great Recession, and you all may be saying to me, yes, financial matters and stressors seem to affect suicide deaths. There's a relationship there. So anyway, that number and this number, the number this year was low until we had 9 suicides in the month of May. And so it looks like it's going to be, unfortunately, another high year for suicides in Butler County. Next is the overdose deaths. We had 185 last year, with a lot of them having meth and fentanyl cocktails. That number hit 230 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's trending back up again. Many of you have heard about the drug xylazine. that's out there now that's causing significant wounds and uncomfortableness. I think it's a vet tranquilizer that's it's on folks' radar now, and I think they've even developed test strips for that. And Narcan doesn't work against xylazine. So anyway, to address that epidemic that's sort of impacted us over many years now, to address withdrawal management referrals, MAT referrals, whatever detox, to support residents that may come to this crisis stabilization unit. Next is our annual report. I mentioned 37,431. Numbers went down a little bit through the pandemic because of limitations, even though medicine has been hugely successful and expanded. We were up over 40,000. I suspect now, since we're post-pandemic, that those numbers are going to increase. And by the way, I've provided a couple of articles. One that I wrote for the American Counseling Association and presented in Montreal, Canada, about 7 years ago, about the prevalence of mental illness in any given year is higher than 1 out of 5. I'm thinking approaching 1 out of 4. And then recently I wrote an article in the Journal News on the 29th, back 10 days ago or so, and just indications from coming out of the pandemic, the impact on youth and those that use substances, and also anxiety and depression, experienced from the pandemic, and transitioning out of the pandemic is indicative of higher mental health issues in the county, and across the nation. That I put some numbers up here just as reference for the public regarding our hotline number, our MRSS number to deal with crises of youth, and then the board's number just for reference for those that may need it that's listening to this presentation today. But I wanted to open it up to you all for questions, and I want to emphasize what Matt said. I realize as I'm going around, and I've been on an education effort, obviously I met with Joshua back in April. I've met with some council members last week. I've been meeting with Fairfield Township and the trustees there, and I'm slated to go before the trustee meeting in July. I am trying to educate and promote, this unit, and to come to a win-win situation, especially, for the jurisdiction, the city of Hamilton and Fairfield Township, where this facility is going to reside right on the border between these two jurisdictions, but also for the rest of Butler County. And just, nothing's perfect. Things happen, and I think with good communication and good relationship and ongoing discussions, we could make this go, and we can make it successful and support Butler County residents. So with that aside, I'm going to just open it up to questions that you have, and feel free. I am like a sponge in the sense that anything you recommend to me, it sort of sticks in the back of my head, and we look at what we can do to accommodate. So anyway, please ask.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Where do homeless citizens fit into this stabilization?
So the goal is this is not for homeless per se. If a homeless person does not have a behavioral health presentation, then this facility is not indicated directly for them. But in discussions I've had, obviously I recognize as the director of my board that many of the homeless have mental health and addiction issues. There's estimates on that number from 50% up to 75%. We will need to make sure that the system has capacity for the homeless that need to be addressed through this facility. That means, from my own perspective, I'm very much committed to a county-wide solution to the homeless problem, including mental health, and I'm willing to, support that in any way I can. But you're right, there needs to be resources at shelters, not only the day shelters such as New Life Mission and the Engagement Center up in Middletown and Hope, and then obviously overnight facilities like Hope House and Serve City and things like that.
So does your organization do anything with homeless citizens right now?
Yes, one of our providers, TLC, has a program called PATH, and they do have caseworkers that go out and assess and refer homeless folks for mental health treatment and addiction treatment and residential placements where possible.
And then I just have one more question.
Sure.
Is this an education tour, or are you looking for something from the city?
Very good question. Obviously, it's been 2 years, and I've been committed to provide education to as many as I can, especially emphasizing the city of Hamilton and Fairfield Township right now. Somebody mentioned that it would be good to have like a town hall on this summer and identify key stakeholders, and I think that's a good idea. And so right at the moment, no, I'm not asking for endorsement for this, but in time, if I had to say, what would be, a next step for me down the line here is there will be a RFP proposal to identify a provider for this facility. The board is an oversight organization. We're not a provider. So, if I can look and see or sort of identify that come this fall, I can look and see if I, have support, for this facility and move forward. After fully educating and vetting and working with, this jurisdiction and obviously Fairfield Township and others.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Knapp.
Doctor, in your presentation, you spoke to 4,800 people annually.
Correct.
That's staggering. That's 14-ish people a day. Based on the numbers, and your turnaround is 23 hours, your turnaround. Where do those people go when after they're with you for 10 hours, 12 hours, 13, whatever, 23 hours? Where are they transported to? How do they arrive at the facility, and where are they transported to?
So very good question. The notion here is that the facility will have law enforcement support, security, at the facility. It also will provide transportation of different modalities. It could be Lyft, Uber, it could be taxi, it could be the facility may have a van, could be EMS. If somebody gets sort of dropped off here that's not indicated, you'll see there's a paper that I provided to you all that starts to lay out indications and contraindications for clients for this facility. And so, anyway, the goal is to educate, police, fire, and others in the community on who's indicated and not indicated for this. But and I know that folks may get placed there that may not be best indicated. Maybe an emergency room is the best place to treat these folks, and that's where we would refer. The issue is, and just to answer your question, I think this gets to the depth of it, I hope, is that the system around this crisis stabilization unit needs to be flexible and adaptable to be able to absorb the clients that come through here. And that's the goal, to expand the system, make sure the availability and the hours of operation are open enough to address the need. And that's what I do now, as part of the community mental health and addiction system, looking at resources, looking at capacity, adding funding, trying to expand programming to address the needs of the county.
Thank you for your presentation tonight. Many of us wished to be part of that conversation you had a couple weeks ago because of sunshine laws were restricted on capabilities to be present in a group.
Sure.
But again, as we're learning more, please be aware that we wish to learn more and understand more about what you're intending to do. We also recognize that facility on Princeton Road is quite a bit larger, as your diagram shows, than
Correct.
what the current, if you will, turnover status would be for roughly that 1 hour or 1 day period. And anticipated growth, as you had said, homeless hasn't really been factored in. We realize and we're aware that many people are transported to our city from elsewhere, in other communities, other municipalities nearby, other counties nearby, and then those nice people that are transported have no place to go. So we're dealing with those issues when Councilwoman Fear spoke about homelessness. That's what happens to those nice people, is they become, they're here, they become part of the community in their flow, and then automatically they're either going to to visit with you, or they're going to visit with Fort Hamilton Hospital or Mercy Hospital because of the care that they need, or the other shelters that are here, the day shelters that you had mentioned in your presentation. So thanks for being with us tonight and sharing what might happen.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate your questions. Just realize I am committed, and now is the time to further address a county solution to the homeless problem. I know Senator Lang has talked about doing this. I know he's met with the city of Hamilton and I think the city of Middletown already, and has talked about meeting again this summer. I've talked with his aide twice and gave him some, suggestions, regarding that. And I agree with you that needs to be addressed at a better level, and it would help support this facility too, in that regard.
Because their substance abuse is an issue with homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health is an issue with homeless people, and I would think that that'd be a big bulk of who may come that you would be serving. So,
First, let me say thank you to Dr. and Matt for bringing your experience, your life experience, and expertise to this issue. We do need to address the dual diagnosis, the substance abuse, the mental illness, and the role that homelessness is in that, because we see that here in our city. But it's how to address these issues, the location or locations, and the manner that they happen to be addressed. I'll have a question in a second for you about that, if I could. There are a lot of what ifs in this whole situation. We went through a lot of them at our meeting last week. But one thing I just want to say is, what is the role of the state of Ohio when it comes to residential treatment and aftercare? I think that's out there, and I think that's going to be brought into this discussion. I believe Governor DeWine talked about spending some more money on mental health issues. Is that residential treatment, or what is that? I mean, I don't know. Also, the role of existing budgets that agencies all have right now. But when it gets to locations, or manner, tell us about the mobile response stabilization services. How does that work out in this county?
So I think you're asking about the mobile crisis team.
Yes.
That
How does that
Behavioral
work?
has.
And give us some numbers, because is that a way of addressing this issue? I mean, to a degree.
To a degree, yes.
Tell us how that works, if you would.
So as it stands right now, that service has been in effect for, 15 years now.
Okay.
Butler Behavioral Health manages the mobile crisis team. They work closely with the Beckett Springs hotline to address needs in that regard. So if needed, any resident can call, or a family member or a peer can call them out. They'll come out and they'll do an assessment on a client, assessing for at-risk to self or others, and other things. If needed, they will write a hold and take them to a hospital emergency room. And then a doctor or psychiatrist will have the, goal or target of assessing the person to deem if he or she needs to be inpatiented to a psychiatric facility. If it isn't, Fort used to have a psychiatric unit, now they don't, so they would be maybe referred to Atrium or up to Montgomery County. And that's the way it works. That unit works very closely with police. Matter of fact, there's a sheriff's deputy that goes out with them during the day. I think they work with police departments at night, and or the sheriff, whatever is indicated. Numbers, I think they have about, I think we keep track of this on a monthly basis. I think they had about what, Matt, maybe 80 or 90 runs through the hotline, and that's not the runs that come directly to them. So maybe 100, runs a month. So you can do the math. That's over that's about 1,200 a year, going out 24/7, 365. They got day shift, they got after hours, and they try to address the need to the best of their ability. What I could say about that team is on the radar of the state in a good way. The PEGS Foundation is recognizing crisis, excellence, and has interest in writing with that team and presenting it to at other venues in the state to say this is a good quality mobile crisis team. Granted, nothing's perfect, but I think we have a pretty good team here. And this will work closely with the Crisis Stabilization Center.
Does that mobile response stabilization service, does that work with the court system a little bit? You talk about a hold.
Well,
are there court emergency guardianship set up
right.
for that particular mobile?
Right. Yeah, they can write a hold initially. I think it's limited. I think it's 48 hours. And then after that, I think the court or the judge has to intervene to extend that. But yeah, initially, I think it's a 48-hour hold that they can write. But then obviously, it will be assessed by a doctor or psychiatrist to determine whether to continue to implement that or not.
Thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions. When you were doing the presentation, you were showing that you were projecting a $7 million operating budget.
Correct.
For this. Is the $7 million currently in your budget, or is this what the levy question was about?
So it's a very good question. Currently, some of that is in my budget. I just checked to see we have. So let's just talk about this. If this unit were to go forward, it would take a year, I would think, to rehab at least the care facility to get it operational. So in 2025, I would need money to facilitate the operational costs. I've estimated that anywhere from about maybe 30 or 40% of this, 20 to 40%, could be Medicaid billable services. So Medicaid will pay for that portion. The rest, I am looking at right now, board subsidy. I do have $5 million earmarked for fiscal year or calendar year 2025 for this in my budget. And so to get us through there, to answer your question long-term is we're looking at a levy in the county, a tax levy expansion to come up here hopefully in the next year to address the sustainability of this over time.
So you currently collect about $11 million annually in levy proceeds. So what would you expect that number to go to?
I would say, because don't forget there's two parts to this. There's the part that deals with the crisis stabilization unit, which could be $4 or $5 million. And then there's the system beyond the crisis stabilization unit, which the last increase the system had was in 2006, so that's 17 years now I think we're at. And obviously we can go a couple of more here. We've got a little bit of reserve. But then we're going to need new funds for that too. So to answer your question, we're estimating with the crisis stabilization between $7 or $8 million in extra tax revenue.
So the levy would be increased from about $11 million annually to call it $18, $19 million annually?
That's correct.
Has there been an evaluation done of if we had that much money on an annual basis, what is the best way to serve? I mean, have you just zeroed in on the old nursing home, or has there been any other evaluation that, hey, with that type of money we could do, as an example, instead of using a centralized facility, crisis stabilization to me is really about time, but you're asking everyone from Butler County to drive into Hamilton to do the stabilization. Why would we not go to the 5 or 6 hospitals in Butler County and say, we have X dollars every single year. If we provided you a subsidy, could you create 5 to 10 beds for crisis stabilization? So people in Middletown would be closer, people in Westchester would be closer, people in Fairfield would be closer versus the amount of time it would take to transport someone into Hamilton.
Well, what I can say is a couple of things. One, I've based this model off of similar evidence-based practice models in Deschutes County, Oregon, and in Durham, North Carolina, and then in a rural county area. And this is the type of model they have used. Reason why, the care facility came up is the commissioners have, brought it to my attention and said this is available and, empty. And obviously we haven't talked about leasing prices and all, but the lease on it may be reduced to make it more comfortable to address that way. I can tell you if it's a new facility, it may be from the architect we talked about. If I said $1 million to rehab, it could be 7 or 8 times that if it was a new facility to build somewhere else. Your suggestion to look at hospitals to address 5 beds across the county to address this, I admit I have not looked into. I would, wonder, when you're talking about behavioral health supports, look at what happened with Fort Hamilton and the psych units, which you all are
But to be
aware
very fair
closely.
about Fort Hamilton, when the president from Fort Hamilton called me, told me they were going to close it, it was because everyone from the county was bringing people to Fort Hamilton, and their reimbursement was not covering the cost of the services they were providing, which is why Mercy Hospital upped and left Hamilton, because they said they were losing money. Even though their mission was to help poor people, they had to move out. My point is, it's another facility in Hamilton, and I think Councilman Nab asked the question, people come to that facility, and if they are discharged, there's no guarantee that they're going to be leaving. And I know that our public safety already is taxed to the hilt in terms of the services they're providing. I'm just struggling why Hamilton would be the best location. I mean, if you're going to centralize this, it seems like Interstate 75 would be the easiest collection point from all parts of Butler County to reach. I am struggling to understand why Hamilton is, I realize there's a facility in Hamilton that's empty, but if you're going to have to pay a lease for a facility, I mean, there have to be other facilities out there, and frankly, I still think that if there was a subsidy to the hospitals, I think it'd be worth bringing them to the table and just asking the question, because they're already set up in a way that can handle that without any further. There's an economy of scale because they have a workforce, they have check-in, they have a lot of those services already in place.
And you could have oversight. You'd have that subsidy, and we'd have to have oversight.
Yeah.
But is the Butler County Care Facility actually in Hamilton? I know it's Hamilton, Ohio, but is that township property out there?
That's in Hamilton.
It is Hamilton? Okay.
Yeah, my understanding, the care facility is in Hamilton, and just, I guess TLC is right there, and that's sort of the border with Fairfield Township right there. So, I hear what you're saying. I guess, it's something that can be considered. I guess there's a lot of time, obviously, that's been invested, 2 years worth of work, and going out and looking at models, across the country that best fits. A model such as a distributed model like you've mentioned, I have not seen. I don't know if it's a best practice or evidence-based practice in regards to that, especially with, behavioral health, both mental health and addiction issues. I can tell you that when Fort Hamilton Hospital did leave, we had discussions in trying to address the psych unit, but obviously it was not successfully kept here, and anyway, so we've sort of responded to that with other contracts. We've got contracts with Beckett Springs Hospital and Atrium Hospital to try to shore up the loss of that facility.
I think
it may not be best practice, but it's common sense. I mean, everything that you hear about helping people in need is being accessible. I can't imagine these people walking up all those steps to Butler County Care Facility. I mean, it's completely out of reach from anything from people that need help. I would just think we would try to put it in a place where they can get to it easier any time of day.
I think my overarching point is, I mean, if the levy is needed to operate it, and let's say that your levy proceeds, if you were successful on a levy request, would go from, call $11 million to $19 million annually. I mean, that is $4 or $5 million more than we spend for our entire police department on an annual basis. The point is, maybe if we evaluate, we've never had this type of money before. That's a lot of money. You're talking $200 million over 10 years. Is it being deployed in the most efficient way? If you're at 19 million over 10 years, $190 million over 10 years, but is that being deployed in the most efficient way? And because it's just, I mean, from our perspective, from a city perspective, that's just a lot of money, especially if it's not a direct portion that is not going to mitigate a lot of the homeless issues that we're seeing. I mean, I think that is probably, if you asked our residents, I have a feeling that would be a bigger question for them to have answered than a lot of the other questions that we've talked about tonight.
I guess I think homeless is on, sort of on our radar. Obviously, we've got some programmings through providers. You know, as I always say, we're not the homeless board, we're the Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services Board, and recognizing that there's a lot of homeless that have these issues that we need to address.
I know, but if you're asking taxpayers to pay more money, I think that's a legitimate question to have answered, is like, why should we pay, if homeless issues are such a big issue for us, why can't your board do that? Why can't you just simply change your mission and make that a part of what you guys do?
Probably, yeah, I think Matt's right. State law, you know, Ohio Revised Code 340, and what's stated there regarding the mission of our board. And obviously to change gears to sort of encumber and focus on the homeless problem beyond what we're doing or looking to do in support of it is quite a transition and a mission. And when you consider staffing and reorganization and potential funding, I guess, to address the needs that are already, of that 19 million, there's 10 million already sort of designated for that. There's quite a, I couldn't put the amount of money that crisis, addresses beyond, homeless issues or residential, when you call it recovery housing, mental health housing, withdrawal management and residential treatment and things like that. That takes up about a quarter of our budget just to address that. So anyway, it would be a significant restructuring. And Joshua, what I can say to you is you have my commitment to work towards a countywide solution to the homeless problem. I am waiting. Hopefully Senator Lang will help start to address this, to look at what our role is and how we can support a countywide solution to this problem. I think it has to start with assessing the need, the capacities out there right now, and this population isn't easy to address. Many of you know some homeless don't want structure, may not want to be housed, who may want to be outdoors, and as long as somebody's sound mind and body and they're not breaking the law, and they're not trespassing, they can, walk freely, I guess, in the community.
That's a big what if.
Yeah.
What's the budget that you have for that mobile response group? What's the annual budget?
About $500,000.
Okay.
Yeah, for the mobile crisis team.
I actually meant to ask another question, because I wrote here that you put, you're not a service, you oversight. So what do you mean by that?
So the homeless, is that what you're saying?
But just in general. So you
okay.
don't provide any services, you just oversight what's being done by everybody?
So yeah, we are a administrative body providing oversight to a provider system. Realistically focusing on the quality of the system, focusing on budgets, focusing on annual implementation plans, needs assessing. We have a strategic plan that we've been working on that's going to be launched for the next 3 years here. The board does all that, and realistically, the staff that I have, really do not have time to do treatment, with clients, but to provide oversight. And what I can say is that there's a lot that goes into vetting providers and programming to make sure that we are the payer of last resort and we're good stewards of the taxpayer money. There's quite a bit of effort to make sure that we're the last dollar in, that our administrative overhead, I think we average about 9 or 10%, so that means 90 to 91% goes to services. To make sure that, we're, again, just sort of good stewards and a good reflection of how government should work with taxpayer money.
And who you provide oversight to, are they, because I'm on your website right now, so are they like the Access Counseling and Beckett Springs and Big Brother? So everybody listed here on your website is who you oversee? Yeah,
and beyond. Those are our large contract providers. They usually have contracts anywhere from about $50,000 up to $3 or $4 million. Wide variety of services, and anything from preschool consultation and mental health programming up through Uplift, which is a geriatric depression treatment program for seniors in Butler County.
Basically, you pay entities for services.
Correct.
Okay, and you can payer of last resort, that's what you said.
Correct. So that means third-party insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, we make sure that those are utilized to service, our residents before we provide subsidy funding.
Other questions or comments amongst council? Okay. I'll have to take a look at it.
So I want to thank you for your time. Again, I'm very open to look at a win-win situation to work with the City of Hamilton, Fairfield Township on this project. Anyway, I know things aren't perfect, but willing to look at communication, identifying needs and adjustments, and to continue with ongoing communication to address this if you endorse it and decide to
How often
implement it.
does your board meet? Are guests allowed to come?
Yes. Yeah, we're meeting next Wednesday night from 6. It'll be a long meeting because it's the last meeting before our fiscal year, and a lot of our contracting and budgets and things like that happen. But just so you know, we meet 9 months out of the year. We don't meet in July and August and December. And sometimes we have special meetings in months if we need it, but and then we have committee meetings and things like that, and you're very welcome.
And do you take minutes to where we could find those on your website, or how would?
If you go to www.bc, I think you're on our website
I
right
am
now,
right now.
you'll see something called Board Docs. And if you'll see a rotating menu called Board Docs, click on that.
Okay.
Then go to Meetings, and I think you'll find 8 years worth of
Okay.
meetings.
Okay.
And you can see all the contracts and policies, budgets and things like that we're addressing.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Just one last thing. I know that we had an opportunity to meet last week, and I really hope that there can be some sort of a meeting of the minds, a town hall where we're all sitting in a room, or as many of us that can, sit in a room, and with Fairfield Township, with Westchester, with Oxford, with all the other cities or all the other communities in the county, and really talk about this. I would love to hear from them. I'm sure the concerns we have are not unique, and that other counties, and so maybe the greater body can come together to really come up with some solutions.
Yeah,
And that would be great.
Yeah, I would very much welcome that.
I'd be more than happy to help facilitate,
Yeah.
gathering everybody together too.
I'd love to hear from our state representatives, from our senator, find out what are their thoughts on this. There's money out there, I'm sure, but where do we put it? And I would really love to see that happen. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
all
you
for
so
your
much.
time, and I appreciate the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that finishes up our special presentations. We now go to audience of citizens, and let's see who signed the book. Individuals wishing to make comments may speak during this part of the agenda or wait for the item. Wait to speak on the items before council for a vote. You're required to sign the public speaking book. We have got, looks like, three people who signed the book, and everybody's allowed up to 5 minutes. We've got Jim Loneman first. Jim?
Good evening, I'm Jim Loneman, I live at 544 Franklin Avenue. Okay, Franklin Street, whatever. Anyway, I have a question for you. Okay, I was taking it the other day I was going on, I think it's on 5th Street. I turned, actually, when think about it, I turned right on to Ross Street, which is going one wrong way. So we can't turn right there, and I actually turned right. I didn't think, the cop pulled over for, he was very arrogant, He was, he wouldn't listen to my story even, To say, you give me a ticket, and, I could have told him a mistake. I've never did my whole life, rode the wrong way on one-way street my whole life, and he could listen to me like that. Even my driving record is perfect for over 5 years. I didn't get my license at all.
Well,
And I like
people
them
make
fast.
mistakes, and sometimes they have to address the mistakes.
Yeah, I'm saying, but I like you defend me in court for that.
Like I said, people make mistakes when they drive, and
Would you like to defend me in court?
do what, please?
Defend me in court? But defend for me?
No, I'm not going
You're a lawyer?
If you ask me to defend you in court, no, I'm not.
Sure, you were. You were.
Jim, I think you've already said enough. You made a mistake, and it's going to be taken care of through our system, which is the best system that any country's got.
I'm going to take it to court, and present
No, I'm not going to present you.
I mean, I'm birthday.
I believe that the matter will be resolved in court, and that'll be taken care of that way.
Okay.
Okay.
And also, one other thing, yeah, okay, and then there's people still parking over in Lindenwold, parking this far from the corner.
Yeah, I believe I know the police are addressing those issues, and neighbors are probably calling in like you are when that situation continues.
Why the cops protecting them?
Well, you brought the issue up a couple times. I'm sure it's being thought about, and it's being addressed in its own way. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Have a good night, all.
You too. Dan Hancock.
My name's Dan Hancock, and I live in Hamilton, Ohio. In the paper there, the Journal News, and that said the city needs to get off their duff there and start getting a final proposal for the North Hamilton crossing, because it seems like the city is not doing anything to push the issue and put down a permanent route so we can get the county and then put it to the state so the state can put their approval, and then both the city and county and that get the federal government to get their funds in that and get this thing off the road. Because we don't want to wait like the South Crossing there, wait 25 years to get it done and running. So that was one of the issues that was in the paper there, quite lengthy. And the other issues down in Lindenwold, that last year you started to fix the crossings and that and taking up the cobblestone crossings there because they're sinking in, and you only did one, and you got 4 more there to address and get them fixed in that, because like I said, there's like potholes in that, and you just throw in asphalt in wherever there is instead of putting asphalt all the way across like you did the other one, which is really nice. Another issue is the bike path and that. We need to start putting some final proposals on that bike path and that. The people are for it and that, and they want to look for more expansion so it can connect with the bike path on the other side of the river. And it's just like nobody's doing nothing, or it's just like they're just sitting there, and the city's not proposing, saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what's happening, and get the thing off the road there.
Okay.
And I want to thank the city here for my new hearing device here. There's a lot of people that don't know that it's available for them to be able to hear, and it works really tremendous in that. I mean, you guys sitting back, I mean, I was in the bathroom here, I had to go to the bathroom, and I was hearing everything you guys were saying.
Well, that's not a real pleasant thought.
But anyway. But
that's what I mentioned some of your neighborhood, North Hamilton Crossing. That is a process. There are stakeholders meetings coming up. There's I think of their town hall coming up. That is a process. We're dealing with ODOT. ODOT kind of tells us kind of how we're supposed to do things, because ODOT's a big part of this, as well as our Butler County TID is a big part of this. So just stay tuned. There are things being set for that, of which you're, of course, you've been to the past meetings, and you'll hear about the upcoming meetings. Lindenwold crossings, I'm sure that's also a process. You can't do everything overnight. And same with the bike paths. That's also a process.
also the moving the train depot and that, I mean, you moved it, you got all the brick on the bottom
No, I
part,
think that
but
Engel
the
just
roof,
addressed us on the roof. Yeah,
the roof is falling in, and you're just going to ruin what you've moved. Spent all that money to move.
As I said, Rich just sent us, that's been worked on by our city engineer. So,
Mr. Mayor.
please go ahead.
Dan, with all due respects, do you truly believe we're not doing anything? I mean, do you come up here and truly think?
I hear other people talking to me and that about it, and also, like I said,
what
it's
can
in
you
it's
say
in the
to
paper.
them? I know them. They're working. Why do you come up like we're not doing what we're supposed to do?
Well, did you read the paper?
Well, not always.
Well, you might read it. You might read it more than that, and you'd find out.
To come up and
I mean, that's not just me.
I wish you'd have more respect for everyone.
I
instead
understand.
Of coming up like, why aren't you following through? It isn't like those are the only 4 things that they have on their checklist, and everybody wants this done as quickly as you want it done. So I just want to know if you really believe that we're not doing.
Oh, I do,
anything. 'Cause
but
you
a
start
lot
off
of people were saying to me and that, and it's like they're not getting a response back from the city and that. I understand what you guys are doing and the process, but what I say and tell them, they say, well, we don't hear it from the city,
Well, Mr. Mayor, all of us are
Tell them to
accessible.
come to a meeting.
All 7 of us are
That's right.
accessible, and you have driven around this town with our city manager as well, which is something you probably never see in a city our size, where you had the opportunity to drive around with our very busy city manager to address the issues that you brought up. So I bring them up, and maybe you just talk to a council member and say, hey, what's going on with this project? Let's hear more about North Hamilton Crossing. So we're trying to be responsive and getting the word out in various ways, and I think we're addressing it. Did you want to say something, Mr. Manager?
Yeah, just quickly. Michael Pittman from the Journal News and I had a meeting before the council meeting this evening. We talked about, I read the article that you're referencing. I didn't have the same takeaway from what he wrote in that article than what you just said, and he's sitting right there, so I guess you could ask him if that's what he meant, but that was not my takeaway from reading that article. And we actually had a conversation with Alan Messer probably about 5 o'clock this evening about the steps that we are required to take by ODOT from a funding perspective on North Hamilton Crossing. And frankly, a part of this is making sure, and I think the mayor mentioned this also, that we're getting as much public input as possible. I feel like the city of Hamilton goes out of its way to gather input from residents. I think the upcoming neighborhood summit is a incredible example of that. But I would encourage you to talk to Mr. Pittman, who's sitting right in the corner right there, who wrote the article that you referenced that was in the Journal News. But that certainly was not my takeaway from what you said to council.
Okay.
Dan, we're working on it. Feel free to contact us even outside the council chambers, okay?
But I'd like to, come a little bit earlier before the meeting and that, so we can walk around and.
I'm going to start coming earlier. I promise you, right?
Yeah.
2 minutes to 6 rather than.
I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to fix this chair so I sit up higher, for one thing. Secondly, I'm going to start coming to meetings earlier, okay?
Mr. Mayor, Dan.
That's my word and my bond.
When we see each other at the grocery store and I speak with you, and you say, Tim, we've got this going on and that going on, we're working on the bike paths. We've applied for grant money to have the bike paths finished between Eaton Road and Main Street, and then connectivity between Main Street and the river. Those things take time, as everyone has said. The city engineers are working on Pleasant Avenue to repair the streets, but we're working feverishly to repair all the streets, not just Pleasant Avenue where the school crossings are and things. You've talked to us before about getting continuum on North Hamilton Crossing, and as everyone has said tonight, we're working in accordance with ODOT, we're working in accordance with the state of Ohio, we're working in accordance with the federal funding to be able to support this, because it's tens of millions of dollars to do this project. It's not $500,000. You asked us to look at the park at the end of, is it Mark, I believe? And we'd like to be able to do that, but that's also almost $1 million to be able to create that. So we listen and we hear you, but if you've got friends who are talking to you, you've got my number, and I'm accessible, as are all of we, to be able to listen and talk to your friends and not have them gang up on you, but call us and say, hey, Tim Nab, I've got this going on and that going on. I answered an email today from another concerned citizen who said, can you help me with a car that's been parked in front of my house for 2 weeks, has got a flat tire. And the police department took care of that for us. So please let us know, and we'll try to fix it as best we can, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang around, Dan. You're going to hear some good news tonight, I guarantee you. Okay, Chris Cannell.
Speaking of good news,
He always brings
he
good.
always.
No pressure here. Chris Cannell, 1309 Cleveland Avenue. Thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. This is part of my quarterly update that I've been asked to give updates year end from the Hamilton City Schools. I'm a couple weeks late. The kids are out in the summer. But this year we had a class of 665 students. We had a 98% graduation rate. 64% are planning on going to college. 6% are joining the military, and there's 30% that are looking to enter the workforce. The class of 2023 received over 400 scholarships, totaling over $16 million. 26 students earned honors diplomas. 120 students earned a total of 2,034 college credits, taking CCP courses. Some of them are going straight from high school into their sophomore year of college. During the college application day, they had 227 students attend, 175 applications were submitted, and 102 students were admitted instantly. This year we held 2 Future Fair Day events where we invite local businesses to come in and interact with our students. We had about 35 local businesses come in. And the fall fair, we had 478 students attend and 121 students were offered jobs. And the spring fair that we had, 314 students attend and 65 students were offered jobs. And lastly, to update you on the co-op program, in this past school year, 2023, we had just over 500 students hired into local jobs. And if you go back to the inception of this program 1 year ago, we were over 600 students placed in Hamilton area. And that represents, they are placed within 105 local businesses. And to tell you a little bit of our talent that I'm helping and makes it very easy to help when you have Shnavi, who was here this evening. She's one of the 600 placed, so we've got a lot of talent.
Very much so. Can you send council those stats? I think that data is interesting for all of us, even just maybe carry around and something and say, hey, this is what our schools are doing, the successes that they've had.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chris, I know that you don't like to brag about yourself, but can you share the story you told me about the young man that saw you in the parade?
Oh, we had a student in our engineering technology class, top student, and wanted to go into welding. And he had mentioned that he wanted to go into welding at G&W Products. And I had happened to know the gentleman that owns the place, knew my dad real well. So anyway, I established a good relationship with him. Got this young man an interview, but he had to perform. They had him do 3 hours of welding, and he was outstanding. So anyway, at the Memorial Day parade, I was walking down, and I saw him from the side, and he was waving to me, Mr. Cannell, how you doing? You know. And then when I turned to walk back, I heard him say, Mom and Dad, that's the guy that got me my job, my career. So he walked into a career at the end of high school, and he's doing well.
You're the man. Thanks, Chris. Takes care of audiences. I told you to hear something good, Dan. Okay, audience of citizens. Over with. Consent agenda. Staff reports, caucus reports, meeting minutes. We're going to committee of the whole, which will allow council to ask questions, provide direction, and comment on various reports. Is there a motion that the regular meeting be recessed and the committee of the whole take place?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Councilmember Fear. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried at 7:33 p.m. The committee of the whole, please.
Absolutely. The first item on our caucus agenda will be presented by Mr. Rich Engel, our Director of Engineering.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens of Hamilton. I'm here to present on the proposed new codified ordinance for commercial quadricycles. I thought I'd start the presentation with a photo of what these vehicles look like. They are a brightly colored vehicle, as you can see, with seats that customers, passengers can sit on and pedal the vehicle. It's intended to be a entertainment vehicle to travel around the city. We're proposing a pilot program to start this off. We've had a couple of companies in the city ask and express interest about doing this, so we've been meeting with them and internally. So we're proposing a new codified ordinance, Chapter 350, collaboration by law, police, and engineering. We're work together on this. Requirements for operation of the quadricycle. The quadricycle itself would require licensing, inspection, liability insurance, a license card, and then a fee associated with that. The operator itself, there would be a driver, there would be a non-passenger. They would have to have a license and pay a fee as well. The regulations we're proposing is a 3-year pilot program. The quadricycles must comply with federal and state motor vehicle laws. Routes and stops must be approved by both HPD and engineering. We would not permit them on streets with speed limits greater than 35 miles per hour. The maximum number of containers would be 36 ounces of beer or 18 ounces of wine in non-glass containers. We would not permit them on either High Street nor Main Street, Monday through Friday between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. due to traffic congestion. They must use a parking lot or a parking space on a non-arterial street for the passengers to embark or disembark. Passengers must be at least 21 years old. And there would be a commercial rental with a licensed driver, as I mentioned. This is a caucus report. This was presented to the ORC a month ago. Are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor, please. First of all, I think this is a great idea. Cincinnati has this, and I had the opportunity to do it downtown with friends of, excuse me, a couple years ago. It's a great way to connect the businesses. It's a great way to bring people to the city. So I hope this works out. So, Rich, you mentioned the pilot program. When does this begin and when does it end?
It would be a 3-year program. It would begin following the approval of the ordinance by City Council.
Okay.
I know the one company I talked to, they probably would not be ready until next spring to participate in this, but I know another company, I don't know about their schedule, but.
How many of these vehicles are going to be on the road at any given time? Do we have that, or is that something we're going to be assessing during the pilot program?
We're going to have to assess that.
Okay.
I would think 1 or 2 per company at the most, and try. We need to see how it's going to operate within the city, and obviously make decisions after that.
Sure. Thank you.
And Rich, from what I read in the backup materials, this is in the Dora district, correct?
That is correct.
And that the vehicles do have motorized assistance, electric, I believe.
That is
motorized
correct.
Assistance to help on hills and to keep the vehicle moving
Yes.
and out of the way of traffic and things like that.
Correct.
Well, like Councilman Ryan, I've had the occasion in 3 different cities to ride on what preferably are called pedal wagons, and in one city on a paddle boat, all with the same type of entertainment value and stops along the way, very, very limited alcoholic capabilities to carry on, as you had said in your report. So thanks for presenting, and like Michael shared, I'm hopeful that this pilot program can prove successful in Hamilton.
Yeah, and just for your information, this is separate from the DORA program. They would not be allowed to bring DORA cups onto the vehicle.
Understood.
They would have to bring their own containers themselves, or purchase them at a local tavern. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please.
So we were informed yesterday morning that the governor made the award announcements for their systemic safety applications, and we received notification that we received a $1.8 million grant from ODOT for the Ross Avenue safety improvements that we had proposed. Recall, we had met with the citizens of Ross Avenue nearly 2 years ago, and through the efforts of Scott Hoover and the Traffic Engineering Department, they were able to secure this grant. Its construction probably will not occur until fiscal year 2026, but we are going to receive grant funding for both engineering and the construction itself. City's share will be around $360,000. So again, a big win for the city. We're going to make pedestrian improvements on Ross Avenue, including bump outs at all of the intersections from Millville to B Street.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you, Rich, so
Yeah,
much.
Congratulations. We were very pleased to receive that announcement this week. Thank you.
As being responsive to the folks who showed up and had legitimate concerns, but it's also a big note that our team got that done. Your team got that done, you and Scott, and that's great for our citizens.
Yes, sir. Thank
you, Rich. Okay, second one.
So for agenda items 2 and 3, we'll be having presentation by our planning director, Liz Hayden.
Good evening, City Council and residents of Hamilton. I have 2 agenda items tonight. One is 116 Timber Hill Drive. It's something that council you've seen before, but it is a project that requires both a plan development process and also platting process, which is that formal subdivision process. And so you're seeing the final plan and a preliminary plat for this project. It's 18 dwelling units, which is 6 duplexes and 2 triplexes. And here are some sample elevations of or renderings of what they're proposing to do. It would meet the anti-monotony standards, so they wouldn't all be the same color, but it's 50% brick or stone on all facades, 3 different elevations. Some are 1-story and some are 2-story, and they're 3-bedroom and either 2 or 2.5 bathrooms and 2-car garage proposal for this site. Do you have any questions on this project?
Thank you.
The second project that we have in front of you from Planning Commission tonight is for 2251 Northwest Washington Boulevard. This is a long vacant site across from the freshman school. And there is a group that's proposing a commercial development. If you look on this presentation, you'll see that the number 1 is proposed now, and then a number 2 is a future shopping center. But my understanding from the developers is that they would anticipate having both of these structures constructed in the next 2 or 3 years. So it says future, but it's part of a whole package, because that would both would be able to occur before the expiration date of the approval. And it would be up to 13 tenant spaces, but they also could combine if they have a larger tenant. And they're proposing to allow any possible permitted use in the business plan development zoning district and no conditional uses. So the business plan development zoning district allows for things like office, retail, restaurants, but wouldn't allow something like auto uses or convenience store or gas station, which would be conditional uses. And this is a proposed rendering of the development. It's not super clear in here, but the black areas are windows, and then it's all brick, stone, and hardy plank. Any questions on this one?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
is this going to impact North Hamilton Crossing?
We are very much in discussion with them on North Hamilton Crossing and if you see where do you see the hatched area? That's actually a parcel, like a green space parcel of land right now that they're avoiding because of North Hamilton Crossing. So that's very much part of the discussions.
Any other comments? Looks like Planning Commission reviewed these two projects at a public meeting with audience participation, and there was a lot of questions and all, and it's been reviewed, and that's where we're at.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up for agenda item number 4 will be a presentation by Ms. Tomika Hedrington.
Good evening. I'm back in regards to the home ARP funds. We recently received approval from HUD of the city's home American Rescue Plan funds and the actual plan as a whole. The funds were originally allocated in 2021, and it took a long time and a lot of planning on our part and actual organization from HUD for them to get everything we needed for us to submit the plan, and we had it approved. Through the plan, it is proposed that additional housing will be created, so new through acquisition and redevelopment. That'll be done by Neighborhood Housing Services. And then Family Promise is going to conduct tenant-based rental assistance. Once we include administration funds to that, and also funds that'll be committed to our CHODO, which is also Neighborhood Housing Services, that will take in sum up the amount of funds that were allocated. This presentation is solely for the purpose of asking council to approve and appropriate the funds that were proposed earlier this year. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Then last up for agenda item number 5, we'll be having a presentation by our city manager, Mr. Joshua Smith.
Thank you, Daniel. That was very kind of you.
Very welcome.
Mayor and Council, tonight going to be talking about a property at 555 North 3rd Street. People know it better as the Cohen Recycling Facility that is across the river from the Spooky Nook mixed-use development. We have been working with a development group out of Dublin, Ohio for quite a while now. The two primary principals for this group, Crawford Hoying, is Brent Crawford and Bobby Hoying. I think many of you would recognize Bobby Hoying's name. He was a quarterback for Ohio State back in the early and mid-1990s. The person I do speak with the most is Matt Starr, the gentleman that is on the right-hand side of the screen. But so this is the team for Crawford Hoying. It's who they are. What they have done, I have a couple different slides. Their signature development is known as Bridge Park in Dublin, Ohio. It's on the east side of the river. You can see the pedestrian bridge that was built by the city of Dublin for this development the last 5 to 7 years. But Bridge Park is about a 20-acre mixed-use development. It has hospitality like hotels and bars. It has quite a few apartments. It has condominiums. It has office space, so it's truly the true definition of a mixed-use development. More locally, Crawford Hoying owns the Banks development on the Ohio River in Cincinnati between Paul Brown Stadium and the Red Stadium. I believe they own everything in between that the two stadiums except for the General Electric building that was built in 2012-2013 era. Also, they own several properties in downtown Dayton. One of them that they just completed was the AC Marriott in downtown Dayton. But if you've been to a Dayton Dragons baseball game, they own quite a few apartment complexes in and around that stadium area. So that is who they are. They also do developments outside of Ohio, but I just wanted to highlight 3 that people may be familiar with. They have approached the city to purchase and develop the Cohen Recycling site. And I have a map that I'll show you in a moment, in exchange for a $3 million forgivable loan from the city. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on that forgivable loan and what that exactly means also on a later slide. So the development timeline that is proposed within the development agreement is that they would close on the property later this summer in August of 2023. They have an agreement with the Cohen Recycling office that they would give them time to finish their operations and relocate off the site. So that would mean that Crawford Hoying would start site work and demolition on that property at some time in 2024, and that construction for what they're calling phase one would start in 2025. Pursuant to the development agreement that is proposed, they would have to complete phase one, or the first $50 million of development, by December of 2026. And by 2036, they would need to have completed a minimum of $150 million of development to have the full $3 million loan forgiven. The way that is structured is, as an example, if they did not finish phase one by December of 2026, that they would have to repay the city the first of the $3 million. So there are target deadlines in $50 million increments for them to perform, so that forgivable loan would convert into a grant. If they do perform and produce the $150 million of development by 2036, the city would reimburse the general fund, which would be the source of this $3 million, through a tax increment deal that we would have. So we would collect 25% of the tax increment, and that is how we would repay ourselves. So if they don't perform, they would have to pay us back. If they do perform, the city is being paid back through the 25% of tax increment that's being collected. So phase one would consist of 176 apartments, 120 key hotel, 5,000 square feet of commercial space, and 6 townhomes. Just to give you an idea of scale, if you took the Markham Apartments and the Rossville Flats and combined those two projects, that would be approximately 176 apartment units, just to give you an idea. So those two projects would be equivalent to 176 apartment units. The 120 key hotel, that is the exact size of our Courtyard by Marriott in downtown Hamilton. It's a 120 room hotel. Again, just to give you an idea of size. 5,000 square feet of commercial space. If you took Casual Pint, the Poorhouse, and Chicken Cone at the Markham development, that is 5,000 square feet of commercial space, and the 6 townhomes. Now, the development agreement has contemplated other uses that are not included in phase one, but just to give a couple examples, there is a food hall that would be a part of this development, a minimum 6 restaurant food hall. So if you've been to Hilliard, Ohio, actually has a great food hall in their downtown. Dublin, Ohio has a food hall in the Bridge Park development. But think of it almost as a fancy food court where you would have many restaurants under a single roof with common dining space. They've also, the development agreement also contemplates green space. It contemplates rooftop amenities. They really want to activate the river in that immediate area. So we would work with them to provide a river access, very similar to what we have by the River's Edge Amphitheater, a path like that would get you to the bike path, because they want people coming on the bike path up to the development, or people that want to kayak or do stand-up paddle boarding on the Great Miami River to have that type of access. So 17.7 acres, that is the site that would have to have the $150 million of development. Again, I think 150 is the number they wanted in the development agreement for the targets, but I'll just give you a quick example. I did ask them about Bridge Park, because the Bridge Park development in Dublin is just a little bit bigger than this 17.7 acre site. They said that development agreement said that they had to have $200 million of investment, and last time I talked to them, they said they had quadrupled that amount. They were at over $800 million of investment on that site. So again, $150 million is just a target for the reimbursement. I truly believe that you're going to see a substantial more investment on that site. I know that we had talked many years ago at the council level about why Spooky Nook was important, and I think this is probably a good example of why it was, because the development that we're seeing on this site, but for Spooky Nook being across the river, this would never have happened. In the coming council meetings, as council is aware, but the public is not, we're going to be seeing a lot of development agreements, a lot of development site plans up and down the MLK corridor, and also on the High and Main corridor. again, I think it's a good indication of what's happening. Finally, I'm just going to say that the thing that is interesting, if you follow any type of financial news with interest rates that have gone up, with some inflationary pressure, with some other things, a lot of development in areas has slowed down. I would say that our deal flow today is probably more robust than at any point. Tim Urban likes the word deal flow, but our deal flow today is probably more robust than at any point since I've been here. And I think that's a testament to our strong team and the fact that people find Hamilton, Ohio to be a very desirable place to deploy capital. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
will they be using some shells of the building, or will they be taking everything down?
So we certainly have time because of the Cohen operations to have a lot of conversations. They have provided some various concept site plans on how they would like to locate hotel, apartments, et cetera. Obviously, the river is going to be an amenity to them. But everything in phase one preserves a lot of the buildings that currently exist. So if you think of the current operations of the Cohen Recycling, outside of maybe some random storage, that would have some of the demolition would be in what I would call the southwest corner of that site. But the primary buildings would not be touched until they had an opportunity to have conversations with the Architectural Design Review Board. They've already reached out. They want to have conversations with the German Village neighborhood. They want to have conversations with the Hamilton City Schools. I know that they have had some conversations already with Butler Tech. So they have plenty of time before anything's going to happen to have those conversations and make a determination. It has been stressed, I will say, that the facade wall on 3rd Street is, I think, important. No different than what Spooky Nook did on Mill 1, where they preserved the facade wall. Even though they did not preserve the entire building, but when you drive down what Sam Byler calls the B Street Canyon, it looks the same today as it did 100 years ago, and they know that at the very least that facade wall is very important, and whatever buildings have structural integrity and can be repurposed, they know that it's our desire to see that happen.
Okay, good, thank you.
Other questions or comments? This is like a real domino effect of repurposing, new development, keeping an eye as well as on the historical properties that are in the area.
It was interesting. I was talking to someone this morning about MLK/North 3rd Street, that corridor from the High Street intersection to the Black Street Bridge. And 13 years ago when I started as city manager, I don't recall a single conversation about people talking about this as a desirable area for development or redevelopment. Matter of fact, when I think my very first day on the job, I was told that the vision for that area was to put a conveyor belt from what's known as Little Italy neighborhood over North 3rd Street to take coal from a coal pile and convey it over to the power plant. And also the other vision I heard when I started was what is now part of the 3rd Street, what we call the North 3rd Street parking lot for Spooky Nook, was to turn that into a trash to energy site. That was like the two big visions for that corridor. So I'm happy those actually never materialized, because I think the investment that we're going to see at this and other developments is certainly better suited for the citizens.
Great.
Joshua, thank you for building the relationships that we talked about that were strategic in bringing this opportunity to Hamilton. So to you and your team, congratulations.
Well, team gets a lot of credit. I mean, I would be remiss, Tom Vanderhorst, truly his ability to work with the developers and understand the finance side of these deals has been absolutely critical. Jody Gunderson and his economic development team are solid as always, but the entire executive leadership team, I mean, they probably get sick of hearing about these projects sometimes, but they've all participated in some form or fashion. So I mean, it's truly team efforts to get these done, and to have a developer with the gravitas of a Crawford Hoying, I think, is just truly a feather in our cap. That they are very well known throughout the state of Ohio, or doing projects in Charlotte, North Carolina, and other locations. I mean, I'm thrilled that they have an interest in Hamilton, Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our presentations, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to committee the whole be closed?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried at 7:59. Is there a motion that the regular meeting be reconvened? So moved. Second. Motion by Councilmember Nab, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Accept the motion regarding the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Pullman.
motion that with the exceptions of the items so noted, council receive the reports of the consent agenda and concur on the recommendations.
Second.
Councilmember Pullman, motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Councilmember Vaughn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing nothing, that motion is carried. And maybe I forgot to say, 7:59 is when we reconvene the regular meeting. We now go to council actions pertaining to legislative items. I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move that a note be made upon the minutes that each member of council was furnished a printed copy of each item of legislation prior to its being considered at this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Councilmember Pullman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. And it is 8 o'clock as far as that goes. We now go into public hearing section. I'll set the motion to regular meeting be recessed and the following public hearing take place.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Nab, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried at 8 o'clock. The public hearing, please.
A public hearing regarding amending sections of the City of Hamilton zoning ordinance, Section 1250 zoning land use chart, permitted uses, conditional uses, accessory uses, Section 1300 conditional uses and specific uses, Section 1400 accessory uses, Section 1600 off-street parking and loading regulations, Section 1800 residential design standards, Section 3900 glossary, and Section 4500 fee schedule pertaining to the first round of 2023 zoning text amendments, City of Hamilton applicant.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard at this public hearing involving amending sections of the City of Hamilton zoning ordinance? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard at this public hearing involving amending the sections of the City of Hamilton zoning ordinance? Anyone on, well, first of all, I want to say that nobody signed a public speaking book, so please care of that part. Anyone in council wish to make a motion to be heard at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Pullman.
make a motion that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Councilmember Vaughn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. It is 8:01. I'll set the motion to the regular meeting be reconvened.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Roll call vote on that motion to reconvene the regular meeting.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Regular meeting is reconvened at 8:02. We now go to actions pertaining to legislative items. We go to pending legislation. Agenda item number 7, second reading of an emergency ordinance involving a ballot initiative to permit Sunday sales of alcohol in the Mill 1 Community Entertainment District.
An emergency ordinance approving the submission of a ballot initiative to the Butler County, Ohio Board of Elections in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, ORC, Section 4301.356, which, if passed, would permit Sunday sales of beer and intoxicating liquor within the Mill 1 Community Entertainment District, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Councilmember Pullman. Any discussion about this particular emergency ordinance? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Now go to agenda item number 8, second reading of an emergency ordinance involving a ballot initiative to permit Sunday sales of alcohol, Mill 2 Community Entertainment District.
An emergency ordinance approving the submission of a ballot initiative to the Butler County, Ohio Board of Elections in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 4301.356, which, if passed, would permit Sunday sales of beer and intoxicating liquor within the Mill 2 Community Entertainment District, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Fear.
I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Questions, comments, discussion on this one? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Now go to agenda item number 9, second reading of an ordinance involving amending sections of our Hamilton zoning ordinance.
An ordinance amending sections of the City of Hamilton zoning ordinance, Section 1250 zoning land use chart, permitted uses, conditional uses, accessory uses, Section 1300 conditional uses and specific uses, Section 1400 accessory uses, Section 1600 off-street parking and loading regulations, Section 1800 residential design standards, Section 3900 glossary, and Section 4500 fee schedule pertaining to the first round of 2023 zoning text amendments, City of Hamilton, applicant, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember
I
Nab.
move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
By Councilmember Nab, second by Councilmember Pullman. Discussion on this one. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
We now go to new legislation. Agenda item number 10, two readings of an ordinance involving supplemental appropriations.
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Hamilton during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, first of two readings.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Pullman.
make a motion that the rules be suspended and said ordinance be read a second time by its title.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Councilmember Nab. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. The second reading of that ordinance, please.
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Hamilton during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Pullman.
make a motion that the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Councilmember Nab. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
We go to agenda item number 11, two readings of emergency ordinance involving mutual aid agreements.
An emergency ordinance ratifying and confirming the APPA AMP mutual aid agreements and establishing and amending the established hourly rate for city employees rendering aid under mutual aid agreements, first of two readings.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move the rules be suspended and said ordinance be read a second time by its title.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Second reading of that emergency ordinance, please.
An emergency ordinance ratifying and confirming the APPA and AMP mutual aid agreements and establishing and amending the established hourly rate for city employees rendering aid under mutual aid agreements, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Comments on this one? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Lauer,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Go to agenda item number 12, first reading of an ordinance involving the job classification.
An ordinance amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2022-12-126, adopted December 14th, 2022, by creating the new classification of public utilities control engineer, first reading.
Thank you. Go to agenda item number 13, first reading of an ordinance involving community reinvestment area.
An ordinance expanding, modifying, and restating the terms and tax exemptions of the Main High Corridor Community Reinvestment Area, first reading.
Okay, thank you. We go to agenda item number 14, first reading of an ordinance involving another Hamilton community reinvestment area.
An ordinance modifying and restating the terms of the Hamilton City Community Reinvestment Area and removing parcels from that area, first reading.
We go to agenda item number 15, resolution about authorizing membership on the Board of Trustees of American Municipal Power.
A resolution authorizing the Executive Director of Infrastructure or their designee to represent the City of Hamilton, Ohio as a member of the Board of Trustees of American Municipal Power Incorporated.
Mayor,
Councilmember Nab.
I move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Nab, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Any comments on this particular resolution? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Lauer.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 16, which is a resolution about a side lot.
A resolution approving the conveyance of certain real property acquired through the land bank to an adjoining property owner as a side lot, 137 Sherman Avenue.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Pullman.
make a motion that the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Comments or discussion on this one? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Lauer.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted, 7-0.
We will now go to another resolution on agenda item number 17, resolution involving our 2023 concrete repair and resurfacing program.
A resolution ordering the resurfacing and repair of streets in concrete where necessary and appropriate on various streets and avenues in the city of Hamilton, Ohio. 2023 concrete repair and resurfacing program assessment roll.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Vice Mayor Ryan. Discussion or comments on this one? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Lauer.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted, 7-0.
Audience of the city manager.
Nothing, sir.
Nothing at all. Audience of council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
a couple of items. First, I just wanted to congratulate the Department of Infrastructure on the award of a $440,000 grant for EV fast chargers. Very, very exciting. At OKI this week, I met with the CEO, thanked him for awarding the grant. Hamilton was one of 4 cities. We received 2 locations, one on Erie and the other over in the old Elder Beerman parking lot, which is a real perk for our city. He very quickly came back at me and said, Hamilton is on the move. He said there was no doubt that presentation, the proposal was excellent. There's a little more money left, so hopefully Hamilton will apply and get more. But it's a real perk for the city to have the EV chargers. Second thing, Coffee with Council this Saturday at Markham Park, just prior to Juneteenth, and Candace White will be speaking. And then you already heard about the summit, so I won't repeat that again, but I expect to see everyone there. And then lastly, 17 Strong Social with the Appreciation Kickball Game tomorrow night, June 15th, Markham Park, 5 p.m. It's 1 hour. We're going to play kickball, so let's all join.
Great. Anyone else on council? Okay. Executive session.
Yeah, before we go into executive session, Mayor, I received an application for an honorary street renaming.
Sure.
Do you mind if
I was going to mention this afterwards. Can you send that application? Did you send that application to council at all to read beforehand?
I did, yes.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read that?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that it may have seemed like it was last minute, but they're working on a bit of a tight timeline,
Okay.
at least later in the summer. And I understand that we will only have one meeting in July, so I want to make sure that we can do our best to accommodate for that, determining how council wants to proceed.
Council had a chance to take a look at that and develop some kind of an idea of what they want to do.
I did look at it, but have we come up with a policy as to when we're going to, what the criteria is? Because I thought we kind of decided before we did anything like this again, we would have something in place.
I believe something is in place about the number we do throughout the year, the number that we can do. I think that was done by ordinance review, but I could be wrong about that.
We have a policy. We can circulate that to all of council to remind it, but that we went through the process of bringing that to council per the council's
We
request.
talk about this at the next meeting. I think that might be better if we do it at the next meeting. So we can start applying the policy with this particular application.
But does it fit in their time frame? Didn't you say it's kind of?
I can double check. I think it's
Okay.
maybe later towards August, but I received the application. I was talking with the applicant, and in doing so, I was trying to ensure that they were following the policies that we had discussed. So it's non-arterial streets, a street that's geographically significant to the person with the honorary renaming and make sure that they have significant service to the city of Hamilton. We're still trying to abide by those guidelines as best we can.
I'd like to have time to compare those two. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And
No,
Mayor,
that's okay. I
also,
apologize.
I also read it, and I had the same question. So Letitia, if you'll get us that policy, and Daniel, thank you for forwarding that at your lunch. And again, we can do what we can do based on our next meeting.
Give us time to put that together. And if you could put it on the next meeting, that would be great.
And since it comes up often, is it something that we can publish on the website that people can go to see ahead of time before they apply?
I believe that it's already on the city website, but I can double check. A lot of
I
times,
need to read the city website. I guess.
a lot of times these are, applicants that call me directly.
Right.
And then, just in order to have an ease of communication, they email me the application directly, or I email it to them. That way we are current with these
Because you
discussions.
just contact the applicant and say we're going to be discussing this at the next meeting? Or
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Okay, executive session.
Yes, sir. We have two items tonight. One is to consider confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance. And the second is to consider the purchase of property for public purposes.
Okay, regarding that first request, is there a motion that the executive session is found to be necessary to protect the interest of the applicant for the possible investment or expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with an economic development project?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Council Member Nab, seconded by Council Member Vaughn. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Lauer.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Motion was adopted at 8:15. Is there a motion that council go into executive session for those stated purposes by the city manager?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Pullman, seconded by Councilmember Fear. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Lauer.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
That motion is also passed at 8:15. Okay, we're going to go in executive session, upstairs or downstairs?
We're going to be on the third floor in a conference room. So if you want to follow Tim Wordman, he can get you to the conference room. And then I'll be up momentarily.
Okay, we will have the executive session and we'll just come out and adjourn the regular meeting. That'll be the close of the business. Thank you.